Do you want me to go ahead and go over the poll now?
Yeah, sure. You can go ahead and do that.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. Before Janie gets started, if you've been in any of the sessions prior to this, you know that we do a survey of the school divisions that are represented in each of these sessions. And we do this because we try to report back to school divisions on the training and services that we provide to them each year. So I'm going to present a poll in just a moment. The poll has 3 questions because there are a limit of 10 items in each question polls for Zoom. So, and there are 21 school divisions. So I actually had to break it up into 3 different screens or 3 different questions. So in each question, you're asked to indicate you're a school division. And if you don't see your school division in that question, you select none of the school divisions above in that question. And then you go on to question 2 and do the same thing, go on to question 3 and do the same thing. So you have to answer all 3 questions. You either indicate your school division or none of the school divisions above in that question, and then submit. And that way we'll be able to gather all the information on how many teachers we had from each of our member owner school divisions. So let me launch the poll now. And you should be able to see it now, and we'd like for you to complete it. Answer each question, select your school division. If you don't see your school division in that question, select none of the school divisions above in that question. So we have just a few more people to complete the poll. Remember, answer each question, either select your school division or select none of the school divisions above for each question. Just a few more people to complete it. If you haven't already, please complete the survey that you see on your screen. Answer each question, either select your school division's name in the question or select none of the school divisions above for that particular question, and then select submit. So very quickly before we wrap this up, if you haven't completed the survey on your screen yet, please answer all 3 questions. In each question, select your school division. If you don't see your school division's name, select none of the school divisions above. And once you've answered all 3 of the questions, then select submit. And we'll take about 30 seconds more, and then we're going to let Janie start her session. So again, if you haven't completed the poll already, please answer all 3 questions. Either select your school division or none of the school divisions above for each question, and then select submit. And I think that brings us to the end of our survey time. So I'm going to end the poll. And then I'm going to turn the time over to Janie for the presentation today.
All right, thank you. So welcome everyone to Digital Tools for Distance Learning. A lot of you may have been with us the past 2 weeks when we had our previous webinars, which was kind of a mixture of us from WHRO speaking with you about distance learning. And you probably recognized Elmer's voice, who was just speaking. He did a lot of the talking during the last two. And he's also going to be here with us today, hanging out, manning the chat, trying to answer any questions that you may have. Also, if Elmer's unable to answer any of your questions, he is going to direct them towards me. So I'm going to stop a few times during this presentation so that we can try to get to those questions that you leave in the chat. So as you think of questions, feel free to ask them, and we'll stop every so often and we'll try to get them answered as best as we can. And I'm also going to give you some links for some support sites today as well, just in case there's anything that we aren't able to answer for you. So either welcome or welcome back. And before I get going, I want to mention that I will be sending out participation certificates to all of you for this session. If you attended the past two, as long as you typed in your correct email address, you should have received certificates from me for those last two sessions, and you'll also get one for today's session as well. And also, we will make sure that you have access to this slideshow after the presentation too. If I'm not mistaken, I believe we're going to post them in the same location that you signed up for this webinar. In case there's any information that you want from this slideshow, we'll make sure you get that as well. So, this is me. My name is Janie Everett. I am the Educational Technology Manager at WHRO, and that basically means that I visit schools either in person or digitally like we're doing today, and I help educators of all sorts use technology with their students in their classroom, whether it be the regular classroom or the digital classroom that we're kind of used to now. I've listed my contact information at the bottom, my email, as well as my Twitter handle. Feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions about the content that we covered today, or questions about anything, or if you're interested in me coming to you and the rest of your staff for another professional development session, do not hesitate to reach out to me or to give my contact information to your administrators. I am fine with that as well. All right, so in our past two sessions, we've been talking a lot about learning at a distance because this is more important than ever. As we know, things have looked a little bit different lately, and they're probably going to look a little bit different when we return in the fall as well. And we may not all have solid plans about how we're returning in the fall, and it might also look different for every district. I saw we have a whole range of attendees today from all sorts of different school districts all over Virginia. So I know things are going to look different for all of you. So I'm trying to provide you with some digital tools today that will be useful in our new digital learning environment, no matter what that might look like, whether it's teaching from a distance full time, like we had to at the end of this year, or maybe half and half. You might have your students half-time, or maybe they're all coming back. You can still use these tools in the classroom as well. They're really great. When I was picking tools to show all of you, I was trying to choose sites and apps and extensions that I thought would cover all 5 of these bullet points that I have listed on the screen for you. I feel that the bullets on the screen are the most important components that educators need to keep in mind when we are educating students from afar. So, and I know you've heard Elmer talk about a lot of these in the past couple of weeks as well, if you had joined us for those sessions. So first, communication is absolutely crucial. We need to make sure that we are communicating with our students. if we aren't in touch with our students, they're just not learning. We need to make sure that we are getting information across from us to them. And that includes parents as well. Parents are important to stay in touch with no matter what age you teach, but especially elementary, they're a very crucial part of their child's learning. These digital tools also will help you provide direct instruction. Standing in front of a classroom and teaching is very easy. It's, we've all done it probably for quite a while, but that direct instruction becomes a little bit harder when we're not face-to-face with our students. So these tools will help you with that as well. Also, we need to make sure that we are providing our students digital learning materials. So not just talking with our students and explaining concepts to them, but making sure that they have materials in their hands while they're at home that can help further aid their learning when they're not talking with you during direct instruction. So just like in your classroom, when a student is sitting at their desk working on independent work, that's equally important in digital learning as well. We still need to make sure that we are assessing students. We can provide them all the direct instruction in the world and all the learning materials, but it's all worth nothing if the students aren't using it and gaining from it. So we also have to find and use these tools that help us get feedback from the students so that we can see where they're at and if they're getting it or if they need some extra help, extra instruction, or whatever it may be. And then last but not least, we need to use these tools just to make sure that we're simply available for our students, for questions that they might have for us, or just to build a little bit of classroom community or a relationship between teacher and student. Again, that's a little bit easier to do in a face-to-face classroom setting, but we can't let that go just because our classrooms become digital. We still need to be available for them to ask us questions, for them to tell us stories, for them to explain to us how their homework assignment went last night, and things like that. So one more thing I considered while I was trying to choose great digital tools to show you all are learning management systems, or LMS, as you will hear us call them a lot. So I know from previous sessions that we've done that all of you are using a wide range of learning management systems, and most of those are included on what you see on the screen right now. So all of these tools can be really easily integrated with whatever learning management system you happen to be using. I know for those of us who do use an LMS in our school district, it's kind of the goal a lot of times to make sure that we're putting all of our information in one spot for students so that they're not running all over from place to place on the web trying to find the materials that we're giving them. So everything I show you today, for the most part, provides a link or an embed code or something where you can put it in your LMS. And if you're not using an LMS, that is okay too. And even more reason why you should probably use some of these tools if you don't already have a main one that you're using with your school district. All right, so my next 3 slides are just going to show you the 3 tools that we're going to go over today. And then I'm going to leave the slideshow and go into the actual websites and really start getting into them with you. The first tool that we will view is Class Dojo. It's a phenomenal tool. It is a website, classdojo.com is how you get there. It is also a really convenient app. And it helps you turn your classroom into a community, share moments with students and parents, let students create and share, and easily access all of your favorite teacher tools, which are very cool, and we're going to go through all of them. The second tool that we will view after Class Dojo will be Screencastify. This one is an extension for your Chrome browser. It's very simple to use. It lets you record your screen, which there are actually more uses for than you could even imagine. It's free to use, and it's very, very easy to share your recordings with others, which is exactly what we want to see in a digital tool. And then the third tool that we will kind of dig into today is Padlet. This also is a website, padlet.com, and it's also an app. Padlet lets you make these really beautiful digital boards that both you and your students can contribute to. And they're really fun. They build classroom community, and they're really easy to look at. So that being said, we're going to get on out of here, and we're going to head right over to Class Dojo. So like I said, Class Dojo is an app. It's also a website. And Class Dojo was originally created to be a behavior management tool. And I will say that is a really great use for it. And I'm going to show you how to use it as a behavior management tool. It kind of takes the place of those clip charts that we all had or maybe still have in our classroom, where it has the different colors, the green and yellow and red and blue and all that. And the students have to move the clothespin up and down depending on how they were. This makes that a little bit easier, and it has lots of other features as well. So when you go to classdojo.com, you sign up as a teacher. It is, of course, free. And you can see I'm still attached to the last school I taught at in here, which is all these classrooms. But it's very easy. Once you get into Class Dojo and you create your teacher account, you're going to click on this blue circle with a plus sign in it that says New Class. And you can create as many classes as you want. As you can see, I have a ton of them in here. So I'll just title this one Sample Class. If you're elementary, you might only have one class. If you teach a higher grade level, you might have several. You can create and keep track of as many as you want to. And then you can decide if you want to share all points with parents or just positive points with parents. And you'll see what they mean by points in a little bit. So you create your class, and it's as easy as that. Now it's time to add your students to your class. I believe, yep, you can copy and paste your students in if you have a list generated by your office, or you can just type them in like this. John Smith, save. So as you can see, as soon as you add a student to your class, they will show up right here, and Class Dojo automatically gives them this fun little monster character. They love it, and it's adorable, and you can print them out and put them on their desks or in the classroom or whatever you want to do. And you can see here, this guy is telling you your next step is to connect parents. So I only added one student. You, of course, would add a whole bunch of them. But now I have to invite parents, because not only is this a tool for you to keep track of the students in your classroom and how they're behaving, but it's equally a tool for the parents. So parents can see how they're behaving, and it's also a really great communication tool as well, which is a huge part of this app, which I will show you soon. So at that point, we want to invite parents. You can choose the language, and then right here, you either put the parent's phone number, so it will text them a link to join, or you can put their email, so it will email them a link to join. And it's really convenient. When you invite that parent, they just get an email or a text, they click on the link, they confirm that John Smith is their student, and from there on out, for the rest of the year, they are connected to that student in your classroom, and they can see everything that goes on in Class Dojo regarding that student. So now I'm going to show you what some of those really cool features are that both you and the parent will be able to see throughout the year. Okay. So first, portfolios. Portfolios are actually a relatively new feature that was just added probably in the past 2 years to Class Dojo, and they're really wonderful. So what I'm actually going to do, sorry, is I'm going to get out of my sample class and go to demo class because there are more students in it. Okay, portfolios. So basically in portfolios, the students can post pictures, pictures with comments. They can post just comments. So as you can see here, one of my students, Justin Timberlake, he posted a picture of himself holding up a poem book, and he also included a caption so that we understand what's going on in this photo he posted. He said, "I finished my book of poems. I wrote about my dog, Charlie." And this stays here for you to see. Also, when Justin posts, his parent gets a notification on their phone so they can see what Justin posted as well. Couple of things about that. The picture, it can be uploaded from the computer, or it can be, you know, like a photo that they took using their computers. If they have Chromebooks or something, they can just hold it up and take a picture of the work that they did on their desk and post that. That's kind of what Justin did. It's a photo of something in the room. Or if it was something digital they worked on, students can take a screenshot on their device and upload that instead. So I've had students do both in the past, and it works quite well for both. And they get a hang of it really fast, even younger students. I've had first graders even posting things in their portfolio. Another great thing about portfolio is that when Justin posted this picture to his portfolio, only Justin's parent can see that and see anything inside his portfolio. So Jennifer's parent would not be able to see this. And anything Jennifer posted, only Jennifer's parent would be able to see as well. So this is where we kind of see that assessment piece that I was talking about earlier. This is a way that we can kind of assess our students from afar. And I know there are a lot of other tools to do that as well, but hopefully this one is helpful, especially for younger students. It's very, very easy for them to use. All right. So the next feature in here I want to show you is Class Story. Class Story is basically like a little miniature Facebook or Twitter feed for your classroom, for your class dojo. It's not public, only the parents who you have sent invitations to for your class can see this. So that being said, when you post something in here, it is viewable by all parents. So you don't want to post anything personal in here about an individual student, or post pictures of students who haven't signed their media release or anything like that. So here you can see, you can type any sort of message here you want to. You can include photos. Maybe you went on a field trip and you have field trip photos, or you're taking a picture of an anchor chart that you made that you want your students and parents to be able to view from home, not just a classroom. You can add any sort of file you want to. So if you have a flyer for a fundraiser coming up in your school or anything like that, you can post it here, and you no longer have to worry about printing all of those flyers and making sure that they get home in backpacks and all that. You can also record your voice, which is really, really nice when we're learning from a distance. It's great to still let our students see us and hear us. So great way to give your students an update or a motivational message where they can actually still see and hear you. And you can also add classroom events, just like a calendar, in here as well. And then anything you post will have a date, and it will show that you posted it, and it will show up here. Parents can like it, they can comment it, just like your own little miniature social media feed, but not public for the whole world, just public for your classroom. And another feature of Class Dojo is the messages feature. And like I said last time in Class Story that you shouldn't post anything personal there, this is the place where you want to post the personal messages, because these are direct messages between you and just one parent. So if I need to talk with Denzel's parent about something really great he did in class today, I can do so here. So you can see in blue, I messaged Denzel's parent, "Denzel has really improved his reading skills. Thank you for all of your support at home." This will stay here the whole year. These messages will never go away unless I delete them, of course. So I can always go back and review the conversations that I had with each parent. And also you should see a little blue check mark here next to the date. That check mark shows up when the parent has viewed your message. So it's kind of like a little read receipt. So even if the parent never responded back to you, it's kind of nice. You can still see that they saw your message. Maybe they were just busy and couldn't respond or something like that. And like I said, this is the place where you want to post the more personal messages. And you can also include file attachments and pictures here, as well as text, of course. All right, and as far as getting parents involved in Class Dojo, I find that it's actually very easy. I know sometimes when we have to send something home to a parent, it's like, oh, just one more thing we have to try to get them involved in. But honestly, Class Dojo is very common, and you'll find that most parents have already used it to begin with. They've used it before. It's very easy to use, especially in the app. In the past, I have had no problem getting 100% of my parents on board with this, with a few exceptions for those who didn't have internet access at home or something like that. But parents really seem to like this app and this site quite a bit. So the last thing I want to show you in here is that Class Dojo has a really cool toolkit, and that's at the bottom down here. If we click on toolkit, and these are going to be used a little more for when you're actually in your classroom, but they're really, really great to know about. There's a timer that you can put up on your board. These are all kind of intended to be projected up on your board in the classroom. Random, we'll pick one random student from your classroom if you're trying to call on someone to answer a question or something like that. Group maker, you let Dojo know, I need to put my students in groups of 4, and it will put them in groups of 4 for you so that you don't have to worry about that, because we all know getting in groups can be a crisis at times. The noise meter is exactly what it sounds like. You put it up on your board, and it, of course, will need your microphone. And it literally meters how loud your class is being. And if they get above a certain volume, it warns them and says, hey, calm down. They have some calming music. I believe this one, this one's just the date. Think, pair, share. This is where you can post some questions you want them to think about. And then directions, you can just list your morning work or your list of items students need to complete for the day right here. Some really great tools. And then actually the last thing in here I thought about is big ideas. These are kind of cool. I know a lot of teachers who have used these as well. They have this cute little monster character do videos where he teaches the kids about all of these really cool concepts. And a lot of these might match with your student of the month character traits and things like that. Like here, respect. I know respect is a character trait that is valued in every single school. So you can show these videos to your students. So here's the golden rule, and it will show them a little video, and then there will be discussion questions for you and your students to talk about. And then you can even share this video to class stories so that your parents can also see what you were talking about in school that day as well. Or of course, in this situation, that might be how you present it to your students in the first place. Share it to class story and say, parents, please have this conversation with your students today. So I also was trying to think for these 3 tools we're discussing today, I was trying to think about how we could also use these in a more traditional way, like a paper pencil way. And it was very hard because these are digital tools, which is the title of this presentation. So they really are meant to be done digitally. However, I tried my best to come up with some ways that we could use these in the more traditional way in case you have students who don't have access to internet or computers. And I understand some of these might be a stretch, so just go with me here, but just trying to make sure I include every type of student. So for Class Dojo, what I came up with is, so right here is one of them. For example, you can download and print PDFs of these discussions. So these discussion questions right here can be downloaded and printed, and you could send them home that way if you need to. Let me go back. Also, your class story, you could always just do like a Control P and print out your class story. So if you're posting a lot of updates in here, but you know you have a parent who's not connected, you could just print it out every week and send it home that way if you have a parent coming to pick up paperwork every week. Or, you know, you could save it as a PDF and email it to them if that's their preferred method. And also, what was my other one? Okay, so up here in the top corner, options, when you view reports, it gives you like a behavior donut. So when you click on a student and you give them a positive point, they're on task. The parent can see that digitally, but if you have a parent who's not connected digitally and you go to those reports, again, you can do like a Control or Command P and print off this donut for that individual student and send it home this way, so their parent can still see that behavior component. And I'm going to head back to my presentation here. Here are some ways that I came up with that we can use Class Dojo digitally. We can use it to communicate with parents and communicate with students. We can award students those points for turning in digital assignments. Usually we use them for behavior, but teaching from a distance, we might use them, give a student a point every time they turn in a digital assignment or something like that. You can use the classroom tools to make sure your class is safe and effective. You can use those portfolios to view the work that students are completing at home. You can, of course, use this to send updates and messages to all of your parents and students. And with those portfolios, you can assess student work. Also, I wish I could show it today, but Class Dojo has a new worksheet feature coming out, and I don't know much about it because it hasn't been released yet. I just got an email about it, so that's something to keep an eye out for as well. So here is the Class Dojo support site in case you need that, but I'm going to go ahead and stop for a minute or two here to see if there are any questions in the chat that I can try to answer for you about Class Dojo before we move on to the next tool.
Okay, Janie, we have 3 questions. The first one is, in Class Dojo, can 2 teachers access the class at the same time?
Absolutely, yes. Good question. So I was a special education teacher, and I was the general classroom teacher. So I had special education teachers in my classroom all day with me. So of course, excuse me, I needed to share my classroom with them. And yes, that is a possibility. You can share your class with as many other educators as you want to. You can share with your principal, special education teachers, specialists, whoever you want to.
All right, the next question, do students need their own account to access, or do they join with a code?
They do not need to make their own account. They would just join with a code. At the elementary level, this was mainly between teachers and students, or I'm sorry, teachers and parents, I found. Not many of the students were really, other than posting portfolios, they weren't getting in there too much, but they join with a code just like the parents do. Really easy for them to join as well. A lot of schools that do Clever or something similar put it right in Clever for students to access with their school email.
And then the next question, let's see, can Dojo messages be sent to individual students?
So I do not believe there is a way to message just the student without messaging their parent. So what I would recommend, if you're using this as a way to communicate your students during distance learning, is I would just make sure you let all parents know that, hey, I'm going to be using Class Dojo to communicate with your child individually. Whenever you see a message from me, can you please show it to them, and explain to them this is a safe platform for us to be talking back and forth in. And parents will usually be more than willing to let you communicate through this system since they also have access to it as well.
Okay, we've had several other questions pop up, so let's get to those. When inputting names, does this connect with their Google account?
I don't think you can like import a Google Classroom exactly. I think you have to individually type their names or enter a list of names. I don't believe that's a feature that Class Dojo has yet, is connecting with Google Classroom.
And then the next question is, what is Clever?
Clever is a tool that some school districts use, and there are other tools similar to it as well. But basically, it's a website that students can go to, and it has a list of all of the apps and websites that they're supposed to be using in their school district, and it's connected to their student email. So instead of having to go to classdojo.com and typing in or any website and typing in a login, they just log into Clever one time, and then they click on the icon for the website they want to go to, and it takes them there. And Clever lets them log in automatically. So it's called single sign-on as well. It's basically just an easier way for students to only have to sign in one time on the web instead of a bunch of times when switching around from site to site.
Yeah, it is a single sign-on procedure so that they sign into Clever, and once they sign into Clever, they have a dashboard that has all these different apps that the schools have approved for them. They just click onto the app and they're automatically authenticated in the app. They don't have to log into any of them. I think you've answered this one already. And in message section, can we send messages to students one-on-one? And I think you've already answered that one, haven't you?
Yeah, and just to clarify, when you're in messages, it is one-on-one. It's just also, it's sending to the parent. So if you're sending a message that you want the student to see, just make sure you're saying, parent, can you please show this to your student? Because the parent is the one it's going to.
Okay, the next question. Are there any features or themes that would make it look more appropriate for an older group of students?
Not that I know of. This is the only user interface that I have ever seen. It's very cartoony, but I've taught up to 5th grade, and 5th graders still loved it. I know that doesn't compare to high school, but this is the only user interface that I've seen.
And I think that probably addresses the next one. And do you see much Class Dojo use with middle and high schools?
It's definitely still used a lot in middle school. I was an elementary teacher, so I used it a lot in elementary. I had middle school friends who I know were using it as well. I think the use starts to fade out a bit in high school. That doesn't mean no one in high school is using it. It's still a valuable tool, especially to keep in contact with parents, because emails can get lost, quite easily. But I do think that elementary and middle are using it more frequently.
And I will mention that although learning management systems generally are not, they're not Class Dojo, many of the learning management systems have portfolio features that allow students to submit work, submit videos, and allow the teachers to be able to access those. And it depends on the learning management system as to whether it's shared with the parent or not.
Yeah, and in addition to that, I know most learning management systems do have a communication piece where teachers can communicate with students, and some of them have a piece where teachers can communicate with parents, I have found that parents tend to like Class Dojo better. It's easier to use. It's very, very simple. So just in my past experience, this is how I have contacted parents because, you know, for example, I used Schoology for a while and that was not super easy for parents, and this is. All right, so if that's it for Dojo.
Last question.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you take a picture with your phone and put it on the class story?
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. I did that a lot. I walked around the classroom all day and took photos and posted them, either sending them to individual parents or sending them to the class story. All right, is that the last one?
I said last question, but I have one more, and I think it's an important one.
Okay.
Does the teacher preview what students post prior to them posting it?
I don't think they can, but luckily it's not seen by the whole class. So when a student posts in portfolio, it's not going to the entire class. It's just going to teacher and their parent. So if it's something inappropriate, well, then you might want the parent to be seeing it anyway. That might be a conversation for later if something like that happens.
Okay, Janie, I think we've reached the end of the questions, so go ahead.
All right, sounds good. So we're going to move on to Screencastify, which is going to be a bit quicker than Class Dojo. Class Dojo is great and has a lot of features. So Screencastify is an equally powerful tool. And you know, I think a lot of people see Screencastify and they aren't sure how they can use it. So hopefully today, this does show you how you can use it in a lot of different ways with your students. So again, I'm gonna get on out of here. And I'm going to go over to this. And I know right now this looks like a very random screen to be on, but it's going to make sense in a minute. So Screencastify is a Google extension. And Google extension, that means up here where I'm pointing with my arrow, these are all Google extensions. So when you are in the Google Chrome browser, you can download these extensions and they pop up right here with these little icons. So if you want to get Screencastify on your device, on your Chrome browser, you just have to Google, Screencastify.com. And for me, it says already installed, but if you don't already have it, you would click install right here. And it takes about 5 seconds to download. And as soon as it's finished downloading, there's nothing else you have to do. It's going to pop up right here where we see this little pinkish, orangish arrow up here. So Screencastify lets you record your screen. Anything happening on your screen will record in a video. It can also record your voice, and it can also record your face if you want it to. So I'm going to show you how it works. And here's an example of how I used Screencastify quite a bit. It's a really great tool for direct instruction when you're teaching from a distance. So say I'm a 3rd grade teacher and I'm trying to teach my students about simple machines. And I have this big long Google slide that I have a lot of really great information in and I want to send it to my students. This Google slide, while it has really valuable information, is super, super, super long. So there are like almost 60 slides in here. And we know if we send this to a 3rd grader, even though there really isn't that much text on every slide, a 3rd grader really is not going to read through 60 slides and fully comprehend what they just read. And they're also not going to remember it for the assessment that they have coming up. So we need to use tools like Screencastify to make sure that our direct instruction and our learning materials for them are a little more straightforward and easy for them to understand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up on my screen, which I already have on my screen, and I'm going to record myself going through these Google Slides, because that's exactly what I would do in the classroom. I probably wouldn't just throw this at the students and say, here you go, learn it, you need to know it by Friday's test. I would put it on the board, I would go over it with them, I would talk about it, I would point out what is important on every slide. There might even be a slide or two that I skip or tell them to worry about. So those are the things that we tend to miss during distance learning, but Screencastify can help you do that. So I'm going to show you how I would use Screencastify to go over this Google slideshow for my third grade students. So when I'm on the browser I want to be on, which I am, I go up here and I click on my little pink orange arrow. And this is where it gives me some of my recording options. I can choose to just record my browser tab. I can choose to record the whole desktop, or webcam will just show my whole face and nothing else. So it's very rare that I choose that one because typically I want to be recording what's on my screen. Then down here, because I'm going to be talking in this video, I want to make sure that my microphone is turned on. And if it's your first time using, Screencastify is going to ask for access to your microphone and your camera. If I want to, I can choose to embed webcam. This webcam is a little different from this webcam. This one down here will still record your screen, but then a little box of your face will pop up like down here in the corner. I usually choose not to use that webcam feature, but it actually might be nice during distance learning since it's been so long since your students have seen you. You might want them to see your face as well as hear your voice, but that is totally up to you. When I'm ready to record, I press record and it's going to give me a little countdown. All right, so at this point, everything that I say is being recorded. Every move that happens on my screen is also being recorded. We also have a couple of really cool tools down here to use. This one in the middle will hide your cursor when it's not being moved so that you don't just have this random cursor in the middle hanging out over something important. This one on the left is a focus. I like to call it the spotlight. This can be really cool too. Everyone look at this picture right here. This tool on the right, the little circle, kind of exaggerates your clicks. So every time you click on something, it's very like loud and large so the students can see what exactly you clicked on. You also have, of course, your pointer tool. You have an annotation tool, and you can choose the color of your pen. And then, of course, you have your eraser tool as well. All right, so I would be going through this slideshow, which I'm not going to do because we're not here today to learn about simple machines, but I would be saying, good afternoon, students. Today we're going to learn about simple machines. Ancient people invented these and so on and so forth. After I've gone through my entire slideshow and I'm ready to stop, I'm going to click on my little arrow at the top again, and then I'm just going to click on the stop button. When I do this, you're going to see a brand new tab open up in my Chrome browser. And it's going to show me the video I just recorded. It's going to play it back for me. And I have a couple editing tools. I can cut it and make it shorter if I want to. If I messed up in the beginning or something like that, I can cut it out. So probably my favorite part about Screencastify is you can see right here, it automatically saves to your Google Drive. And I know some teachers are saying, well, we're not a Google school. We don't use that. You can still create a free Google account at home, and you can just make these recordings on your personal Google account, and you can still send the links out on your learning management system or on wherever. So I just want to show you really quick. Screencastify automatically makes a folder in your Google Drive called Screencastify, and you're going to see right here, here's mine in my drive. Every Screencastify video I have ever made shows up right here, and then you can delete them or share them out or whatever you want to do with them. You also have a couple of options over here on the right. As soon as you create the video, you don't even have to leave here and go to your Google Drive. You can share it to your Google Classroom from here, publish to YouTube. You can get the embed code. You can just grab the link, put it in your LMS, grab the link, send it out in Class Dojo, whatever you want to do. Really, really easy tool. There are tons and tons of ways that you can use this with your students, and here are a couple of them. You can record live lessons like I just showed you for Simple Machines. You can use this to record your weekly classroom updates and send them to parents so that they're watching a video instead of just reading text. If you show your students how to use Screencastify, you can let students make recordings. I've had students make Google Slides and record themselves sharing their research information to me. If you're an admin or specialist, you could use this as professional development for your staff. You can make step-by-step tutorial videos for students. If you have a really difficult assignment you're giving to students, you can use this to explain the directions to them. Sometimes that's a little easier than reading directions. You could use this to give students personal feedback on their assignments. Instead of giving them typed responses, you could give them some verbal responses. And maybe you could just use it to record some motivational messages for your students since you haven't seen them in so long. And just like last time, here is the Screencastify help desk, if you will, in case you need that. And we will take just a couple short minutes for Screencastify questions because I still have one more tool to quickly get through.
All right, let's see. Can you use Screencastify with PowerPoint or Word?
Absolutely, you can use it with any program on your computer.
And then Beth has made a note that the free version of Screencastify has a 5-minute time limit on recordings.
At one point in time, it was 5 minutes. Then they changed it to 10 minutes. And then I heard recently during the pandemic that they took that time limit off completely. I'm not 100% sure what the time limit is at this very moment.
And then another question is Screencastify used with Google only, or can it be used with other programs, Docs, Cams? And I guess you might want to also talk about other browsers.
So it is only for the Chrome browser. That's the only one that it will work in, that you can record in. However, you can share out anywhere. It gives you a link, and also from your Google Drive, you can download the video too, which is my suggestion for those who don't have internet access, is actually downloading that video and sending it out as an MP4 or putting it on a flash drive and sending it or something like that. So you do have to have the Chrome browser to use it. You don't have to have Chrome or Google to view it.
Okay, and then another individual has indicated that they've used the free version and had a 5-minute limit. Can they get it a longer limit without paying for the paid version?
I would email Screencastify about that one, because I know some of my teacher friends recently got either unlimited time or a higher amount of time because of the pandemic, but I know they had to do something special. I think they had to contact Screencastify. It wasn't just like an automatic free trial.
Yeah, and then let's see, question, how is this different from Zoom?
This is different from Zoom because nobody can join this live. In Zoom right now, we're all live together and you can hear me. And then later on in Zoom, we can send out the recording. Screencastify is not a live version. It's you recording yourself and your screen and then sending it out to people later. And it tends to have less flaws than Zoom, in my opinion.
And there are some other screen capture software. Screencast-O-Matic is another one. I haven't used it in a while, but I know that that's available. And I know there are probably a few others as well.
Loom is another popular one as well.
And I think that brings us to the end of our questions.
Perfect. So we have about 5 minutes left, and luckily this is an easy one to get through, so it really shouldn't take too long. But we are going to talk about Padlet next. So once again, let me go ahead and get out of here and move over my toolbar so I can see. All right, here we are. So Padlet, to get to Padlet, you just go to padlet.com. It is also an app, a very easy app to use. And Padlet lets you create these digital boards, almost like bulletin boards, that are really visually appealing to look at and really easy to add posts to. Not only can you add posts to them, but anybody that you share the link with to your Padlet can also add posts. So this is a really great one for classroom community and making sure that students are collaborating and communicating with each other while they're at home, just like they would be in your normal classroom at school. So when you go to padlet.com, you want to click on the pink plus up here, make a new Padlet. So as you can see, Padlet has a limit and it is 5. Some people have said for them it's 3. For me, for whatever reason, it's 5, but that's okay because luckily you can reuse your Padlets again for other things, or you can delete them. Let's go ahead into this one and we'll just reuse it. So here's what a Padlet looks like. And it's super zoomed in right now. This is a map Padlet that I chose. So of course in Padlet, let's go to modify. All right, you choose the title of your Padlet. I'm going to call this one Map Icebreaker. So say we start the year in the fall completely digital. Of course, you're not going to be face-to-face for all of those icebreakers that you would normally have your students do. So Padlet is a really great way to do that, but not just icebreakers, you can use it for anything. I'm going to use it as an icebreaker for my students returning in the fall, and I'm going to ask them the description, which shows up right up here. If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go? And then of course we would probably put and why. If you want to choose an icon, you can do that. There are different map styles to choose from. So if you want your map to look a little bit different, you can choose any one that you want to. It has some really great security features. So you can make sure that every time a user posts something on this map, their name will show up above it. You can decide whether or not users can comment on each other's posts. You can decide if they can like or give stars to other posts from other students. And these two are really important. You can require approval. So you are the moderator of your Padlet that you have created. And if you make sure this setting is on, then anytime a student posts on this Padlet, you have to view it and allow it so that they can't post something appropriate for the whole class to see. You would be able to stop it before that happened. And there is a profanity filter as well, but as long as you have this first one on, you should be able to filter that out on your own. So once you have all of these settings in here, I didn't save my settings, but that's okay. All you do is share. You grab that link or QR code or embed or email or whatever you want to do. Usually you grab the link, send it to your students, however you choose to send it to them. It might be in your LMS, it might be in Class Dojo, it might be email, however you want to. Send them that link and now they can get in. So for a student to add to this Padlet, they just have to click on the pink plus and they're going to search for a name. So maybe they wanted to go to San Francisco. You can see it added a new post here at San Francisco. And don't forget, they have to answer if you could travel anywhere, why? And they might say, I would travel here because I want to see the Golden Gate Bridge. I'm going to abbreviate. And there it is. So now if I zoom out, you can see the first one I had posted before. It was in Egypt. This student said they wanted to see the pyramids. This student wants to see San Francisco. And as more students post on your Padlet, you're going to see these little pins pop up everywhere. And now you, the teacher, and all the students can go in and see all of the students' responses to this. I also want to show you another style, because there aren't just map styles. There are really cool, just like general wall styles. So for this one, if we were to complete this one, which we're not going to because of time, how will you use one or more of the tools discussed in today's webinar for your digital classroom? I would click on the pink plus, and I might say Class Dojo. I will use this to communicate with parents. And now instead of a map, it just kind of shows up like a post or like a sticky note almost. And as more and more people do these, you'll see them start popping up all over the place. So that being said, that was a very quick overview of Padlet, but it is very, very simple to use. And some of the ways I came up with to use Padlet are for, of course, icebreakers, keeping that classroom community feel. You could have book discussions here. You could sort triangles or quadrilaterals or sort anything. Students could keep these as journals and share the link with you. Map activities. One of the settings is a timeline. So you could use these for timelines. You could do story sequencing. You could just use it as a class photo album if you wanted to, because you can also add photo, not just text. And then of course, there is support for Padlet. And at this time, because we are right at 5 o'clock, I think, if you've got to run, that is fine by me. I appreciate you coming. Thank you so much. But if you have questions about Padlet or about any of these, stick around and we'll still be here for a couple of minutes to take your questions.
Janie, I see one here. Do students have to get an app? I assume that's for Padlet.
They could use it on any device. So it could be an app on a tablet or a phone. They could also use a computer to go to Padlet.com.
Let's see, I'm looking to see if there are other questions here. Okay, there's a question about, so if you and a coworker, this is for Padlet, so if you and a coworker work together and share and join, you could in effect have 10?
Yeah, so I guess if, you know, if you're on like a 5th grade team or something and you had 5 Padlets, the only thing is, or I guess if you're like working with a special ed teacher maybe, and you join together, then you could have 10 to use for your whole classroom. Which, like I said earlier, and I kind of rushed through it. I know the limit can seem a little discouraging, but I have not really had a problem with it. Usually when I use a Padlet, I use it once and it might be up for a couple of days until everybody posts. When I'm finished with it, I either print it or download it, and that's how you can use Padlet in the more traditional way instead of digitally. For students who don't have access digitally, you can very easily, and I'll even go back, you can very easily export and print a Padlet. So if we were in this one, let's see. There it is. You can save it as a PDF or you can print it. So I usually just save it as a PDF so that I have it in case I ever need to go back to it for whatever reason. But for the most part, we're finished with it after a couple of days. And then I clear it, which is somewhere over here. Clear, there it is, clear all posts. And then I just change the title and change the description and I use it again in my same classroom for something else.
Okay, let's see. I've got a question here. Where do you get the embed code?
The embed code. So when you're in the top right corner and you click on share, here are all of your sharing options right here. The link, the QR code, embed code, sending it directly in email, social media, and even Google Classroom.
And then a couple of comments. Let's see, we've got, hope you're correct, the free version of Screencastify with unlimited time for teachers due to COVID ended today. No word yet on if they will offer it again in the fall.
Oh man.
The free time limit is now back to 5 minutes. You can pay a subscription and get more time. And then Beth, hi Beth. Beth mentioned, I think Padlet is maxed out at 3 walls for the free version.
Which is so interesting because I've heard that before, but I have the free version as well. I do not pay for Padlet, and I have 5 for some reason, but I have heard people say 3.
Let me see if there are any more. There's a question here. You began by saying have all of your info in one spot. So are you saying to just pick one of these LMSs? And I'll just add on, these wouldn't be learning management systems, but they are software. So I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, that's basically what I would say too. So none of these things I showed you today are LMSs or learning management systems. Sorry for the jingles. My dog is scratching her collar. These are just tools to use. These don't cover nearly as much as a true learning management system does. What I meant when I said that in the beginning was that these can all be used with your learning management system. So if you use Schoology like I did when I was a classroom teacher, I wouldn't say to my students, all right, go to padlet.com and search for my Padlet and find it. I would copy the link to my Padlet, and now I would go post this link into Google Classroom. And that's what I mean, all in one spot. So everything I'm posting, even if we are going out to other places on the web, I'm going to post all the links for those things in one spot on my learning management system, whatever that might be. And if you don't have a learning management system, you know, that's okay. We can certainly make do without, but that's what I meant when I said that.
And then there's one last question in here, which is really about the recordings. Can you access the recording later? Yes, this will be posted. Link to this recording will be posted at whro.org/webinar. That's where we have all of the registration information for upcoming webinars and where we have links to past webinars. So I think that brings us to the end of our questions.
All right, perfect. For those of you still here, thank you again for joining me today. And did I put one up? No, I didn't. But we have another one of these sessions coming up next. Let's see, today's Tuesday. It's next Thursday, right?